Hi everybody, my name is Christo and today I'm going to show you how to use Gamvar to varnish a painting. And there are a few different reasons why we would varnish a painting in the first place. One of them would be to just have a bit of a protective layer over the painting in case something accumulates on the outside, chemicals, sometimes even little pieces of wood, all kinds of weird things end up on paintings. And then it's not on your paint surface itself, it's going to be on the varnish layer. And we can just remove the varnish and just replace the varnish. And then with paintings, very often if you've used glazes, I've used quite a few glazes in the background here, it would be very shiny, and then in the areas where you've used more white it would be a bit more dull. So when you look at this, the painting, it's got an uneven surface, and with the varnish you'll just smooth that out and just have an even shine on the whole painting. The third reason would be very often if a painting gets a bit on the older side and the paint is really dry, it will look a bit dull. And then when you varnish it, it makes it like new, and it's really nice and bright colors, just like when you painted it in the first place. Now, there are three different types of Gamvar varnish. The one is a gloss, the other one is a matte, and then there's a satin in the middle. So the gloss will obviously have more gloss, and the advantage of the gloss would be that it would give you really rich colors, especially in the blacks. It would be very obvious if you have used the gloss. The disadvantage of the gloss would be it's more glossy, so when you look at the painting front on, there would be a lot more glare. So I found with some of the paintings the fine detail can be difficult to see with the gloss from certain perspectives. If you use something like the matte, the colors are still going to be rich, maybe not 100% as rich as with the gloss, but when you look at it front on, it's not going to be as shiny, and you can see a little bit more of the detail. For a lot of people, the satin that's sort of in the middle is the one that I would prefer. So it will just depend on the specific painting that I'm doing and where it's going to be hanging. This one I'm going to use the matte just to make sure, if it's looked head on, that it is gonna have an even shine and less of a shine. The problem that we sometimes have is even after we have varnished the painting, sometimes the painting will still have areas where it's dull and then very glossy areas where we've used glazes. And that's just because the varnish would sort of get absorbed to an extent into the painting, and if it can get absorbed, then it's a dull area, and if you use glazes, it's not absorbed and it's more shiny. Now, if you use something like Gamvar, there is a solution for this. They've got a mineral, odorless mineral spirits that you can use called Gamsol, and then they've got an alkyd medium. Alkyd medium just makes the paint dry a bit faster, called Galkyd. So if you make a mix of this 50-50, and then just have your painting flat, apply a layer of this, it's called oiling out, so you just apply the layer, and then after you've let it dry for 2 to 5 minutes, you just take a lint-free rag and you just wipe all of that off. Make especially sure on the edges that you wipe it off, so you've got only a really thin layer, and that will give you an even shine already. So I've done it with this painting. So at this stage it's a little bit more glossy than I would like, but it's an even shine. So when I use my varnish, I know it's not going to sort of sink in certain areas and give me those dull and light areas, light and shiny areas. So another thing that I wanted to just mention about the Gamvar, there are a few things that I really like, and one of them would be that it's much less toxic than a lot of the other varnishes. Some of them, especially some of the spray-on ones, it really takes your breath away. I would try and do it either in a very well ventilated area, somewhere in a garage, or even under the veranda, with the risk of getting a bit of dust and all of that on your varnish. But it's just so toxic, I don't even want to bring it into the studio at all. So that's a big advantage of the Gamvar. Another advantage would be that it's really easy to remove. When you want to remove this, you just have your painting flat, and you start in the one corner and you apply a little bit of the Gamsol, and then just go with a dry rag and just keep on having a nice fresh area on your dry rag, and you can just wipe it off, and it comes off really easily. With some of the brands, it's really difficult to get the varnish off. There are a few things about Gamsol that I think that one should just be aware of as well before you start using it, and one of that would be if you apply too thick, it doesn't dry properly, and that is really frustrating. It's almost like syrup, it just stays sticky and it doesn't dry. So you want a really thin, even layer on your painting, and especially when you varnish on the edges, make sure over here to just wipe it off while it's still wet, so that you don't have these thick areas there. That's not gonna dry properly. The other thing I think that you should be aware of, if you use the gloss, you can use more than one layer, and it would, if you put the second layer on, it would be even more shiny. But if there are areas that are slightly dull, it would even it out a little bit. And then the other thing to be aware of with the satin and the matte, there are little particles suspended in the varnish, and that actually prevents it from being too shiny. And when you apply a layer of varnish, especially with this, if you apply a second layer, it will mobilize that first layer to an extent, especially with the Gamvar, because it's so easy to remove. So it will mobilize that a little bit, and if you use the gloss, it doesn't matter. But with the satin and the matte, you've got these little particles. So if you mobilize that a little bit, you're going to see an unevenness in your varnish. So if you use gloss, yep, use more than one layer if you want to. With these two, it's really important to make sure that you get that first layer absolutely right. Another thing that I really like about the Gamvar is, with some of the companies, after you've used the brush for varnishing, I find it difficult to clean it properly, and the brush is just never the same again. With the Gamvar, after I've washed the brush, the bristles is a little bit stiff. So what I've done, I've rinsed it in Gamsol afterwards, and then I just washed it with a little bit of, just applied a little bit of soap, washed it in my hand, rinsed it really well, and the bristles are quite stiff afterwards. But as soon as I have my Gamvar that I'm going to use now in here, and I start soaking my brush, all these bristles just go 100% soft again, and it's like a new brush. So that's really great. But I think what we're going to do now, we're going to get the painting flat, and we're going to just apply a layer of varnish. Right, so let's get this varnish going. So first thing you have to do, if you use the matte or the satin, would be to just mix it a little bit. You don't want to shake it too much and have a lot of little air bubbles in there, but you want to make sure that those little particles, that's gonna make it matte, that they are suspended really well. So we mix that well, and then let's get some of that in there, and let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm going to use 9 parts of the varnish, and then I'm going to use 1 part Gamsol just to thin it out a tiny bit, just so I don't get little ridges on my painting when I actually use that. Great. Now with this brush, it is quite stiff, so I'm just going to start soaking it a bit in my varnish. I'm going to mix it very well at the same time, and you can see it's going all soft, and it is like a new brush again. So now we're just going to get our painting flat, and we're going to do the layer of varnish. Great, let's get started with the actual varnishing process. So what's going to be very important with the varnish, we want to make sure that there's only a tiny bit of varnish on the brush. I'm going to start on that side. just going to apply a really thin layer. Right, just all. Just like that. So you'll see some of the videos when they do the varnishing, you can see a huge difference, and over here you can see a difference between the area that's varnished and the non-varnished area, but it's maybe not that big because I've already done the oiling out, so my colors are already quite rich. So I make sure that I look at the painting from the side just to see if I've got an even sheen and an even layer on there. You can see it's quite a fast process. It's not a very big painting, but still it's a 60 by 60. Right, almost there. And then after I've varnished the painting, I'm just going to go to the other side as well. Just make sure that I have a look from sort of a low angle to make sure that I've covered all the surfaces evenly. See, I'm going to go to the other side, just make sure that we've covered all the areas. I'm going to give it a little bit of a wipe in this direction as well, just to smooth things out a bit. See, there's a little area that I've missed there. So if I go really low and I look from sort of this angle here, then I can see if there are any areas that I've missed. So there's this thing where they say don't go over an area that you've already varnished. It depends on what type of varnish you're using and how dry it is. This is all still quite wet, so I can easily just smooth things out. There's no problem with doing that. Just make sure that I've got a really, really even coverage. So So the light is coming from that side, so if I look from here, I can actually see if the shine is not even. It's looking really good. I'm going to go to the other side again. I'm just going to have a look from here. Right, that's looking really good. And then I'm just going to check my sides and just make sure that I don't have areas where it's really thick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use the t-shirt. Just going to wipe the sides here just to make sure that I don't have any areas that's going to be slow to dry. You know, that stickiness that I've been talking about. Right, I'm going to go to the other side. I'm going to do the same thing here. So now I'm just going to give this a little bit of time to dry, and then we'll have a look at it again. So while we're waiting for the varnish to just dry a bit, I thought I'm just going to go through the products quickly again, just so that you're absolutely sure what I've been talking about. So all of these products are from the Gamvar company. The varnish is called Gamvar, and we've got the gloss, and we've got the satin, and we've got the matte, and the matte is the one that I used on the specific painting. And then it was that whole oiling out process that I talked about, the layer that I applied to the painting before I did the actual varnish, and for that I used Gamsol and Galkite. So I did a 50-50% mix of these two, and I applied that, just a thin layer, and like I said, we wiped that off with a rag. The brush that I used is from Princeton, and it's a 2-inch red line brush. And what I like about this brush, it's possible to have a really thin layer of varnish. If you use a brush like this one, for instance, I find it very difficult to apply that really thin layer of varnish. With this one I can actually just remove the excess varnish before I actually do the brushwork itself. So you could see in that previous shot that the painting was extremely shiny, and it will be like that if you ride head on with a very bright light and the varnish is still really wet. So we're going to give it a bit of time, and then we're just going to see what it looks like when it's dry. This is the painting about 2 hours after applying the varnish, and it's nice and dry to the touch. Over the next few days it's going to harden even more, and the surface is really nice and even. There are no dull spots, no shiny reflective spots, and I just wanted to show you the reflection of this painting. You can see how even that is, and I found with the matte that over the next few days that shine is going to lessen even a little bit more. One other thing that I wanted to mention about the Gamvar, it is said that you can varnish the paintings much sooner compared to some other varnishes. It is, in general, it's recommended that you wait about 6 months before you varnish an oil painting, so being able to varnish it much sooner makes the Gamvar a very practical varnish. If you've got some experience with the Gamvar and you've got anything to add, please let me know. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It will make it a lot easier for other people to find the video. And if you've liked the video and if you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you. See you next time.